Hello. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good. Cool. Uh, I think you're just out of the shot there, Roxanne.
What's that?
Oh, I think you're just out of the shot, out of the webcam.
Yeah, I don't know if you need me in the shot. It gets a bit crowded trying to get two people.
Oh, that's fair enough. Okay. Cool. Fantastic. So, I'll just jump right in.
Can you hear? You can't hear a thing with you. I know you have trouble with your accent.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not
My
your
God,
fault.
we have a transcription.
Yeah, we'll have to do that.
Okay.
You
Um.
want to start with the first question? Wait, let me put your voice up a little louder so.
Okay.
Can you hear? Can you hear? All right. Well, he's not saying anything right now. Go ahead.
Okay. The first question I would like to ask is, in reading some of your past newspaper articles, it suggests that Jacque has achieved a doctorate degree at Syria University, California. Could you describe your experiences there? Specifically, could you describe how these experiences shaped your view of society?
I taught psychology and human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to know how you describe your experience there.
I taught there. I did not learn there.
And
Oh,
could you describe how these experiences shaped your view of society?
Teaching did not shape my views, experience did.
okay. That's pretty specific. Um, I'll just jump into question number two then. Um,
Sure.
I'm aware that Jacque was once a member of the technocracy group. Could you define in your own words how their philosophy for social change differs from your philosophy for social change?
How does technocracy's philosophy for social change differ than yours?
They had no blueprints. They claimed they had blueprints for the new society. There were no blueprints that I found. They also had no blacks in the organization. I asked Scott how come there were no blacks. Howard Scott was the chief engineer.
Hmm.
He said, let them start their own section. That bothered me. Then I asked him how come there were no Orientals. He said the Oriental mind can't grasp technology. This was 60 years ago.
Hmm.
And I said you were wrong. Today they lead the world in robotics,
Hmm.
the Orientals.
Probably more than like 70
So I
years ago.
resigned because
Yeah.
I could not support the segregation of people and Howard Scott's view of Orientals or blacks starting their own section.
Also, they didn't have a good understanding of behaviorism, why people behave the way they do.
That's true.
Oh, okay.
Jock took that much further.
Hmm.
And he also delved into so many more aspects of human
Social
behavior
design.
and social design and why we behave the way we do, how to make people creative, how to teach kids. He really went into specifics where technocracy did not.
Okay. Would you say that technocracy was not humanistic, but Jack's view was?
Would you say technocracy was not humanistic, but your view is?
No, I would say they didn't have an adequate view of how to change people.
Hmm. Okay. That's great. I'll just move on to question number three.
Can I clarify that? Would you say that your view is humanistic?
I said no.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was specific enough that you wouldn't call his view particularly humanistic.
Okay. Um, is it true that Jack traveled to China prior to 2010? And what is Jack's view of the Chinese political economy?
Did you travel to China before your world lecture tour in 2010? Yeah.
Yes,
Hmm. Oh, what did you think of the society there? The role of politics and the role of economics in that society? Do you think it was
I
good?
dislike politics intensely because politicians say things people like to hear, but they don't offer anything. They have no way out of a problem.
Hmm. Okay.
I asked many politicians, how can you prevent war? They said, I don't know. There's always been war, there'll always be war. I said, how can you grow more food to feed people? I don't know. How can you make trains and boats and transportation safer? I don't know. I said, what are you doing in politics?
He's asking about Chinese politics specifically.
Chinese politics is the same as any other politics. It's preferential advantage for a selective few.
Okay. This is great. Okay, I'll just go on to question number 4. In your 2002 text, The Best That Money Can't Buy, you claim that your alternative vision is beyond politics, as we just discussed. However, some may argue that the scientific method that you advocate in the book is paradoxically a political stance in itself. How do you address that argument?
He said, you claim that beyond politics, poverty, and war, that it's beyond politics. However, some may argue that the scientific method that you advocate in your book is paradoxically a political stance in itself.
I'm sorry about that interpretation, but they're not correct.
Oh, okay. Could you elaborate how they are not correct?
Can you elaborate on how they're not correct?
Yes, politicians say things people like to hear. Years ago, people believed the earth was flat, not round. Scientists did not say it's a little flat and a little round to get along with people. They said, you're wrong. We have evidence, and they showed their evidence to show that the earth is round. Politicians do not say, believe me, we have the strongest metal here. They give the torsion strength, the tensile strength, and the compression strength, and they give information, not opinions.
Okay, that is very clear. Thank you. Question number 5. In your text, The Venus Project, The Redesign of a Culture, you state that the project is dedicated to human and environmental concerns. Specifically, could you define what this means?
Yes, do not dump toxic materials into the oceans and rivers. It will kill fish and eventually people, and stop our fishing fleet from bringing in nutritious food. And we will have fish farms on the land and in the sea to meet nutritional needs. It's very different. Political systems do not describe how to grow food, how to house people, how to make transportation safe. They do not describe those things. They merely talk of a better world with words, but no description, no drawings.
Okay. Would you define that as the basic human needs then? Like food, shelter, like Maslow's triangle almost?
Free education, no fee involved.
Would you define that as food, shelter, housing, like Pavlov? What was his name?
Pavlov's triangle, I think it was.
Pavlov's triangle.
No,
Was
we
that his
don't
name?
exactly.
Well, I don't think it was, no.
I thought it was another
It's
one.
like the pyramid of all the social needs that people
Yes.
need, such as love and that sort of thing.
And they're meant like the public library. You can go to the library and get any book you want. Next door to the library, we have a camera center where you can check out a camera, just like the library. Next door to that, we have musical instruments. If you make things available to people on the checkout system like the library, there's no basis for crime.
Okay. So you want to provide education and shelter and food and all the necessities of life for
Without a
everyone?
price tag.
Okay.
Without a price tag.
Cool. I've got it. That's great. I'll move on to... Oh, sorry?
If you use money, you can pay off politicians. We don't use money. We make things available to people.
Fantastic. I'll just move on to question number 6. These questions, the next 3 questions, are concerning crime and criminality. Question 6. Is it true you believe all behavior is culturally defined? If so, how do you explain issues such as criminality? For example, do you believe criminality is genetically determined or culturally defined, or a mix of the 2 factors?
Is it true you believe all behavior is culturally defined? If
Yes.
so, can you explain issues such as criminality?
Criminality is made by scarcity. If you have 2 children and you play with this 4-year-old and neglect a 7-year-old, you're making jealousy and envy right there. If you have two children and you say you can go to the movie to one, but you didn't do your homework to the other, you're making jealousy and envy. It's manufactured by culture. All criminal behavior is made by scarcity or threat of scarcity or fear of scarcity.
Okay. So do you not believe that genetics has any role in defining crime?
Genetics has a role. It has to do with the color of the eyes, the genes, color of the eyes, the shape of the head, and maybe a propensity toward heart disease and other things. But other than that, every word you use is taught you. Cup, house, building, mama, papa, every word you use, every facial expression occurs in your movies, your books, your novels, your role models. So I don't see any individuality. If you were brought up as a baby in Australia, never saw anything else, you'd say, how are you, mate?
That's
Do you
true.
think criminality is genetically determined?
No, it's not. And those cases where it is determined by brain damage, I would say they don't belong in jail. They belong in a hospital and to be treated for that disorder. Same with aberrant behavior. It could be treated. Just as it was shaped by culture, it could be unshaped by culture.
It's a real cop-out to blame it on the genes and not look at society because of it.
Yeah.
They were looking for the Republican gene recently, which is stupid.
Yeah.
Actually, a Republican is raised in a Republican environment. If you want to be an airplane pilot, you go to an aviation environment. You want to be a doctor, you go to a medical environment. This is how you learn. You're not born anyway. Chinese baby was never born speaking Chinese. No matter how many centuries their ancestors spoke Chinese, they had to learn all over again. That's why I accept environment. I never saw any evidence of an American speaking English without being trained to do so.
Sounds good. So how would you define crime in your own words? Like explicitly, how do you define it?
How do you define crime and criminality?
Threat of scarcity, fear of scarcity, inability to access their needs.
Okay. So in your own way, how would you address this issue of crime and criminality in your alternative vision?
I would make the public library available with all things, all the necessities of life would be available at the library if we don't have an abundance. When you're through using it, you can bring it back to the library.
And also giving people the tools to look at the world and communicate more so with one another.
Our language was designed hundreds of years ago, so we don't communicate with each other. We talk at each other, and it goes through their head and comes out in relation to their background. Although you think you're talking to people, you're not. When an individual reads the Bible, he says, this is what Jesus meant. The second person is wrong. He meant that. The third person says, you're both wrong. So you have the Lutheran, the Seventh-day Adventist, the Catholic, because it's subject to interpretation. All language is subject to interpretation. We don't want that. We want a scientific language. When scientists and engineers talk to each other about airplane structures, they talk in mathematical terms. They understand each other. Otherwise, you couldn't build airplanes, submarines, aircraft carriers, or boats.
So, do you believe that if we have a scientific language, we'll be able to challenge crime and criminality?
There won't be any crime because you raise children differently than they're raised today. This is a kind of an egocentric society where children meet each other and say, hey, you, I can run faster than you. I bet I can fight you. They're all aggression. They're never brought up in a cooperative system.
Crime is really a byproduct of the inefficiencies of the culture people are raised under, not the person.
Okay. Fantastic. This is great. I'll just move on to question number 9. And in the transcript of this interview, there's an extract provided by Karl Popper, 1966, page 165. Jacque, how would you contrast your alternative vision to that of Popper's definition of the utopian engineer?
Do you want to read this, or do you remember it?
I'm not a utopian. I do not believe that we can design the ideal society. I believe we can design a much better society. I don't believe man is capable of making the best laptop, because whatever you make is the best you know of up to now. But 10 years from now, it'll be smaller, lighter, and do much more. There are no final frontiers.
This person is kind of saying you can't design rationally the whole of society. What I criticize under the name of utopian engineering recommends, the reconstruction of society as a whole, i.e. very sweeping changes whose practical consequences are hard to calculate, owning to our limited experiences. If claims...
I can answer that.
Yeah.
The limited experiences, he should say, I don't know enough about human behavior to engineer an environment to do away with crime. That's the way you talk. You don't say, we'll never be able to fly. I can't conceive of how to build a flying machine. That's the way you talk. Do you think man will ever get to the moon? I asked a lot of people. They said, not in 1,000 years. I said, have you studied rockets? No. Have you studied space travel? No. How do you come to that conclusion? Because they were brought up to believe that everyone should have a right to their own opinion. I'm against that. Everyone should have access to information, not their own opinion.
This person is talking about his own inadequacies, not what's possible.
Yes. If he were honest, he'd say, I don't know how to build a flying machine. Not man will never fly. That's an opinion.
That's fantastic.
People don't even know how to talk to each other.
Cool. This is great. This is all the questions I wanted to ask yourself and Roxanne. This is really good. Can I just thank you for the opportunity that you've given me to interview the two of you? I very much appreciate it.
Sure. Good luck with your project. Let us know how it turns out.
Oh, will do. Thanks. Thanks again. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And don't forget, our language was designed hundreds of years ago, and it's old words with old meanings, and different people have different association with the same words.
I will. I'll take that away with me.
You don't have any basis of good communication, except in mathematics or the sciences or chemistry. When a chemist writes a formula anywhere in the world, they understand them. It's not subject to interpretation.
You should look into semantics too in regards with the meaning of words. I don't know if you get that in school.
Oh, like the tyranny of words?
Yes.
Like that book? Yeah. So are you advocating the are you trying to say we should leave all abstract words and only use clear reference?
Yes, we need much more emphasis on semantics and communication.
He's saying, do we eliminate abstract words and only use referential?
Yes.
Okay. And that will help to challenge criminality.
Well, it would do away with arguments, because the person would say, I'd have to look into it to give you an answer. He doesn't give an answer right away. He says, I don't know.
If you make things available, that's the end of stealing. That's the end of jealousy. That's the end of ego in certain aspects in regards to that.
Okay. I just have one final question as well. This is just a personal question that I'd just like to ask Jacque. I was aware that you were a vegetarian at one point. Could you tell me why you stopped being vegetarian?
Well, because I saw cows with cancer and rabbits with cancer. They're all vegetarians.
Oh, and you think that has the same effect on the human body?
I've never seen anything to evidence to support that vegetarianism or organic foods reduces the amount of cancer. I've read about it, but I've never seen proof of it. I don't know.
Fair enough. I'll take that with me.
There's a lot of science that has to be done without the monetary system in really invading the outcome of science. Jacque does stay away from red meats and things like that, and we do eat organic, so, but, because there's a lot of poisons on it.
We spray poisons on all plants today. We shouldn't do that. We ought to use high-pitched sound to keep certain insects away, but certain insects are useful to plants. We have to learn how to use ultrasonic methods for supporting the insect population around plants, not spray poisons.
Yeah.
Water.
Well, this is great. This is really good for my final dissertation. So I'd just like to thank you again. I really do appreciate this opportunity.
Okay, Sean.
Okay. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.